So you are legitimately, sincerely, unironically asking, wasn't it Hamas which provoked Israel with October 7th? There was peace during Yasser Arafat. Was there? You think that there was peace during Yasser Arafat. So was it the Yasser Arafat's peace that produced the Second Intifada? What peace are you talking about? When have the Palestinians ever had peace? See, what you're telling me is that you've only read half the story and you were consigned to those set of facts, and you have not been presented with the other set of facts. In fact, you've only been presented with lies. So the omission of facts is tantamount to a lie. So you're saying that Hamas provoked Israel with October 7th. That would be true if history began on October 7th, if there was no October 6th, if there was no whole year of 2023, which the UN concluded was the deadliest year for Palestinians being murdered by the IDF in recent history. It was a record year for Palestinian deaths at the hands of the diaper forces before October 7th. This was being reported on as early as May 2023. But you see, you don't know about that. And I would implore you to wonder, to ask, to reflect on why that is. Why are you not privy to the information that proves that Israel has been the constant and consistent and permanent aggressor, going back formally decades before you were born? How do you not know that? How do you not know that the overarching framework for this whole geopolitical conflict is an illegal occupation and an illegal blockade, condemned unanimously by the entire international community for decades now? How do you not know that? How is it that you are ignorant of anything about this region in the world before October 7th? So much, in fact, that you would find yourself in 2024, October 9th, spouting this history began on October 7th nonsense in a public domain. How does that happen? I'm laughing at Saeed's comment, ever considered a job in movie editing? You'd be pretty good at polishing a turd. You said that it isn't relevant to pull up history. No, that's not what I said. I said it's irrelevant to pull up biblical history. It's irrelevant to cite biblical times. It's irrelevant to cite biblical myths and biblical stories and biblical tales. Yes, that is very irrelevant. Why are we trying to talk about something which happened a century ago? This isn't a century ago, okay? This is happening right now. These are court rulings. These are conclusions from the foremost and credible, accredited institutions, whether they be political, governmental, judicial, international. All of these institutions conclude this right now. There's rulings being made this year that condemn Israel for being, in fact, by the highest court in the world, the International Court of Justice, which has ruled definitively that Israel is an apartheid state. And my point to you is that this is understood by the international community, and it seems that it has escaped you, that the overarching framework for this conflict is an illegal occupation. And we are not going back to non-provable ahistorical claims to territories, i.e. invoking the Bible. We're invoking international law and the so-called rules-based order that we all abide by and we all sign on to as part of the conclusions made by the United Nations, all the principles expressed in the UN Charter. All of these things are supremely relevant right now. They still carry relevance, okay? And to say that, well, what you're basically saying is that Israel is not bound to the international law. It is beholden to a separate set of facts and narratives that, oh, by the way, Israel has chosen for itself, and they are divorced from the international community, okay? They might as well be living on another planet because they don't have to comport with anything else the international community says. That's not going to fly, in a court of law. I always tell Zionists, go to the UN and see if your biblical claim propaganda will fly, We're talking about materially the extinction of an entire civilization wiped clean from the face of the earth, and people want to talk about the story of Esau and Jacob. It's psychobabble from a fake cult, a fake religious cult built on the idea that there is such a thing as a master race. Get fucked. There's no such thing as a chosen people. Like, the moment that you decide to form an ethno-state based on your supremacy, you are necessarily creating an apartheid. and that's what they've done, and that's what it's built on. And to say that, Israel was provoked, like you initially claimed, by Hamas on October 7th, that doesn't hold any weight, legally speaking. Because you're basically saying that Israel has the right to defend itself. But under international law, you cannot claim a right to self-defense in occupied territory. So Israel does not have the right to defend itself while it illegally occupies land, which the international community has concluded it is in fact doing so. And it has been this way. The thing is that all of the material conditions of our society, you're asking, why do we care? Why do we care what happened before October 7th? It's as if there was a bright blue day on October 7th, and everything was peachy, and then all of a sudden this unprovoked attack happened. Well, it's sort of like saying the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, completely unprovoked by the Nazis, decided to rise up and kill indiscriminately. Okay, so what you're basically saying is that you don't have a spine, you don't look at the material differences between two social groups and the power that each social group has, the asymmetry between the two social groups in terms of power, what's known as the power differential between them. You're saying that there is no such thing as that, and that's nice that you can do that because you're so privileged you don't even understand. You're not even privy to the material conditions of these people. You don't see it. It doesn't affect you. You are probably living somewhere in Ohio or Indiana, and you live in a little bubble, and you don't really think about it that much because you don't have to. And we understand that, but it's not an excuse for your ignorance. Okay? It's like saying the Nazis have a right to defend themselves. We're talking about Auschwitz, motherfucker. What don't you understand? These are people that are being deprived of their human rights. They're being slaughtered systematically, and this has been going on for decades now, ever since the creation of the state of Israel is founded on this very principle of ethnic cleansing. So you can't defend, this is the indefensible, you can't defend a genocidal apartheid state. There's no defense of the Nazis, okay? So why would you defend Israel? Why would you defend apartheid South Africa? Why would you defend, the Americans slaughtering the natives? It's a silly harebrained argument to make. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. And so you say, do you disagree that Hamas is using innocent people as human shields? Yes, 1000%. And you know why I disagree? Because I'm literally reading the historical record, and there has been no evidence whatsoever, zero evidence, from any of the hundreds of human rights reports written on the matter of human shields. No conclusive evidence that Hamas uses its own citizens as human shields against the diaper forces. There's actually to the contrary, okay? Go read the Goldstone report from 2009, okay? Written by a South African Zionist, a jurist, who was a proud Zionist. Go read that report. Go read Amnesty International's 22 Days of Death and Destruction. Go read Human Rights Watch. Go read the fact-finding commission reports from the UN themselves. And then when you find out that there's no shred of evidence that Hamas uses its own citizens as human shields, and then when you read that the IDF famously uses Palestinians as human shields, I think then you'll start to understand that everything that the IDF or Israel says, everything that they accuse their enemies of, they themselves are doing. And they're doing it in spades, okay? You're falling for it. There's widespread evidence that in these mowings of the lawn, these operations that Israel implements in the Gaza Strip, these illegal military raid, high-tech murderous bombing campaigns that they impose on the Gazan people, what they refer to as mowing the lawn, you will find IDF reports from soldiers themselves positioning Palestinian civilians in front of tanks and then firing from the tanks indiscriminately into buildings, knocking down buildings, even buildings that they had not identified or if they just thought was suspicious. You'll hear IDF soldiers recount orders from their superiors to shoot anything that moves. You'll hear reports of IDF soldiers putting Palestinian women and children that are positioned inside of homes, putting them in windows from second-story rooms, let's say, and firing over their shoulders. And also in the streets, they do the same thing. Put them in front of the soldiers, and they fire from their shoulders. And these are all war crimes, okay? So there's plenty of evidence of this, okay? And furthermore, there is no justification, once again, for Israel's occupation of the Gaza Strip. The fact that Israel is in the Gaza Strip alone is a crime of aggression. So the initial, what I'm trying to say is that the initial act of aggression in this conflict is on the part of Israel. Israel is the initial aggressor. It is guilty of what is considered the supreme international crime of aggression. Aggression is the supreme international crime. What is aggression? Well, the UN, the Geneva Conventions, make clear that there are something on the order of 7 to 8 different instances. And if you read it, and I've made videos on it, and I'm not going to pull it up right now, but it's suffice it to say that there are 7 to 8 different iterations and examples of aggression, and every single one Israel is guilty of. And let's just start with one minor one, starting a war. In 1967, Israel started a war and acquired territory because of that war. They acquired territory because of a criminal act of war. They started a preemptive war with 3 other countries and acquired territory. Okay, that is a crime of aggression. And crimes of aggression carry with it the weight of the accumulated evil of the whole. So the initial invasion is an act of aggression. The subsequent occupation, another act of aggression. The resettlement, the forcible transfer of civilians from one part of the territory to another, fleeing in violence, another act of aggression. Transferring part of your civilians into the occupied territories, another act of aggression. Building walls, blockading the besieged territory, another act of aggression. All of these things, and on and on and on. I mean, there's even more obviously than that. But the point is that it boils down to, you want to pearl clutch about a third world armed resistance group which has been prevented, sabotaged, gaslit, and every peaceful means that they've tried to pursue to have agency over their land, resources, and labor, as is afforded their right to self-determine under international law. Everyone has concluded this. Is not up for debate. Palestine is its own country. It has its own sovereign people. The territorial unit that is recognized by the international community is Palestine is the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem is its capital. That's the country. And all this is concluded by the international community, so it's not up for debate, right? The other point is that reprisals against an occupying force are the fault of the reprisals. So again, you want to pearl clutch about third world armed resistance groups fighting for their own survival who are being systematically annihilated. You want to pearl clutch at the violence of the poor and the oppressed and defend or apologize for, which is the same thing, the violence of the oppressor. You are showing us a double standard, and you're showing us that you're not principled. You're showing us that you're a hypocrite, and you will have 2 sets of facts depending on who the victims are. There's a set of worthy victims for you, and there's a set of unworthy victims. And the unworthy victims are Israelis, and the worthy victims are Palestinians. And neither shall the twain meet, as they say. But it's rooted in racism, if you think about it, but let's give you the benefit of the doubt and just say you're misinformed or uninformed. But so reprisals against, like I was saying, the reprisals against an occupying force are the fault of the occupier. Blame the Israeli government if you want to pearl clutch about Hamas violence. Blame the Israeli government for engineering the social conditions which made that an inevitability. As long as people are occupied, resistance is justified. Not even Gandhi would condemn Hamas. Okay, so that man's a fucking pacifist. That man's the world's most famous pacifist. Not even he would condemn Hamas. Okay, and you, on the other hand, ironically, would not condemn the Warsaw Jews rising up in the ghettos. You would not condemn Haitian slaves. You would not condemn on and on and on. Okay, it's always this is the tale as old as time. It's settler colonialism, and it's just the first time that we can see it live streamed with laser guided precision missiles being aimed at an entire civilization. I mean, obviously the technology this is a brutal campaign of terror, and it's got to end. Okay. What did he say this time? Is he still popping off with some stupid shit? I kind of lost the plot for a second. Yeah, you don't know a single war. Well, I mean, the fact that you're characterizing this as a war, I mean, lest you forget that wars are fought between two armies. Show me where is Palestine's army. You know, that's another thing, is that you're once again self-reporting your ignorance. There's one country here that has unilateral domination over a besieged territory, which all of the humanitarian organizations have concluded is the worst crisis in the entire world. It's the poorest place on earth. It's a population of refugees. These are refugees, a population of refugees whom most of which are kids under the age of 18, living in squalor, in starvation, who do not have military infrastructure. Are you crazy? Who don't have military bases. They don't have an army. They don't have a navy. They don't have an air force. They have to smuggle in bottle rockets underneath tunnels because they're bombed so much if they want to resist. And you're acting as if they need to follow the rules and regulations of war, of conventional warfare, which rules that were written by the richest countries who had all of the resources, all of the leverage, all of the technology. In order to wage war, you have to have an economy first, numbskull. The Gazans don't have an economy. Gazans are living off of 60 something on the order of 80% of all Gazans depend wholly on foreign handouts. They depend completely on international acts of goodwill from agencies like UNRWA, from the United Nations, to deliver them food and water. They are blockaded from having any materials by Israel. Israel unilaterally controls. It's like saying that Auschwitz, you're so dumb. It's like saying Auschwitz and the the Jews and the Nazis were just at war, okay? Yeah, you're basically saying, I don't know of any wars that didn't have concentration camps, okay? They committed a genocide, but, that's war, baby. Like, do you listen to yourself? Like, I'm surprised you haven't slithered off of the chair that you're sitting in due to lack of spine. But you're basically saying that it was a war in Auschwitz when the slaves revolted. Yeah, that was a war. Okay. That's just ignorant. And do you offer any rebuttals that have any substance to them? Yeah, that's another thing. They can't even, with all of their might and all of their technology and their funding and their billions of aid with military grade, advanced military weapons, they still can't take out a third world armed resistance group living in squalor. Like, they're that bad. Well, it's not really that. It's Palestinian people are that good.
Nixon ordered Cambodian genocide. Clinton sent cruise missiles to Sudan, people died. Obama gave the orders to do drone strikes.